What does the Democratic Party, the Nazi Party, Jonestown, and the media all have in common? What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, the 13th of October. And of course, tomorrow is Ingenious Day, whatever the hell they call it. Another waste of time, another bunch of brainwashing, which is exactly what the Democratic Party, current Democratic Party, have in common with Jonestown, the mass suicide in Guyana, and of course, with churches up and down the California coast. The Nazi Party, which created hungry people so they could create and try to take over the world. And of course, the media, which continues to try and brainwash you, which is a total crock of shit. It is disgusting what has happened to the United States of America over the past few years. But this has not been going on just the last few years. This has been going on. I mean, we can go back to the George Bush Jr. era, where they rushed through the Patriot Act after 9/11, which allowed them to violate all of our freedom. We can go back to Obama, who set civil rights back 100 years, who our current immigration policies were written under, although they say that the laws are too tough. And of course, if you're happy bringing in the illegals, okay, then hey, then you can keep paying for them, but not with my money. Okay, I'm tired of paying for their shit versus we have in FEMA where there isn't enough. There's plenty of money for welfare. There's plenty of money to give to illegal immigrants, to house them, to feed them, to give them cell phones, to let them go from their crimes. But there's no money for the hurricane victims. Now, isn't that a wonderful set that we have going on here, all to buy votes? Again, the current Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party that we remember of old. And again, as you know, I'm no fan of any real politician, but I am concerned about what we're watching now because the brainwashing of America to bring them into a communist or a socialist country is ridiculous. And all the comments I get, interestingly enough, come from those of the very wealthy who would prefer to have a socialist environment because, of course, it would be better for them and their families. I think that we watch what's going on. And of course, as I said, we have money for Lebanon. We have money for Ukraine. We just had a vote at Brown University about whether or not that they should be able to invest in companies that are in Israel. Of course, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are trying to cut off selling arms to Israel. The only democratic state in the Middle East, the only one of our allies in the Middle East. But hey, let's strap them down so that we can let the Nazi Germany resume here as well. Okay, I mean, Adolf Hitler preyed on those who were poor and they wanted food. So that's how he created the Nazi Party. Okay. And of course, that sounds like what the Democratic Party is doing today. They're preying on the poor to bring them in and feed them a little bit, give them a little taste. Okay. And then, of course, get them for votes. We have the continuation of the problem of these voter rolls and who the hell is going to vote here. Now, as it stands today, President Trump is the favorite to win the election. Whether or not he does, I don't know. Whether or not the election is going to be fair or square, I don't know. But what I do know, okay, is that the hurricane victims are getting nothing, okay? And we have now had back-to-back hurricanes, Milton and Helene in Florida, and of course devastation. And to get that your wonderful $750, you have to be paid online, and of course they don't have any way to get online. But I think there's bigger issues. I mean, listen, I feel horrible for the people in Florida. I feel horrible for those that got destructed. And there's lives lost, everything. Okay, I mean, it's a horrible situation. But once we get past that, okay, let's talk about some real horrible situations for Americans going forward. I mean, we do have an election in 3 weeks. Okay, you have got inflation rising. Those numbers are not, you cannot dispute those numbers. And you get bullshit numbers from your government. Okay. Because, of course, once again, if you don't remember, food and energy only count for 4% of the entire CPI number. Okay. Well, again, most Americans, barring the fact of an emergency purchase or something has to be done, are spending much more than 4% for food and energy. But I think the deeper details to talk about is oil. We are producing more oil in this country. And again, I think I mentioned this last week. I was wrong. I had a discussion, lost a bet to a friend of mine. Okay. But we are shipping all of our oil out to China and other places while we are importing from OPEC. Now, why are we doing that? Why is it necessary that we should be buying from fucking criminals that hate us, that would just as soon kill us, okay, in Saudi Arabia and OPEC, the OPEC nations, versus using our own oil ourselves so that we would be oil independent, so that we would be paying half the price for gasoline that we are, which means you would bring down the price of food because the trucking of the food to get it there. You'd bring down the price of just about everything if we used our own oil and didn't import from the criminals and the gangsters of OPEC. And speaking of gangsters, let's talk about the cartel of the Federal Reserve. Okay. Now, the interest rate cut was cut 23 days ago. Okay. Now, what has happened in those 23 days? The Fed cut 50 basis points, okay, which means that the borrowing that the Federal Reserve, the banks borrow from the Federal Reserve, the banks then turn around and lend out money to you. Well, your interest rate, when the Fed cut rates, the 10-year notes were 3.4%. Today, the 10-year notes are 4.1%. The interest rate market has gone up every single day, except one, since the rate cut. Okay. So what does that tell you? And for those of you who don't understand, okay, the Fed funds rate, which is what they're talking about on TV, does not have to have, and normally does not have, a direct correlation to you, the borrower. Okay. Because, of course, mortgage rates are up as well. Okay. In that period of time. The Fed lends to the banks lend to you, the banks work on a spread between what they borrow and what they lend to you at. Okay. They don't have to cut rates. And because there is a dramatic need for money, there is a demand for money, which the free market itself could determine and tell you what the fair interest rate was. But you have the cartel of the Federal Reserve, which is more of a criminal organization because they are so far off mandate. Okay. And if you go back again to those who started the Federal Reserve, Paul Warburg, the Rothschild family, JP Morgan, and the Rockefellers, do you think one of them has your best interest in heart? And again, we've watched the destruction of the dollar based on the Federal Reserve, that it has two mandates: full employment and price stability, not to manipulate markets, not to make the banks in better shape. And of course, when the banks collapse again, and they will, okay, there'll be another crisis at some point because the banks are dramatically over leveraged. I don't give a shit what their shitty audit says. You'll be the person, you'll be the group, we'll be the group bailing them out once again. So again, don't think because the Fed cut rates that your rates are coming down. Okay. I think that we just saw Saudi Arabia smashes their own record of most executions in a year. What a wonderful place to be. And of course, we have the election interference, the legal stuff that Trump for President Trump. And of course, Trump's toughest foe could be Harris's lawyer, Mark Elias, who's already filed many suits and has many to go, trying to overturn an election that hasn't happened yet. You've got Bill Ackman talking about, now Bill Ackman's a Democrat, okay, or was a Democrat, but again, he is telling you in all sight that this is not the Democratic Party that he remembers or the Democratic Party that he grew up in. Of course, We look at the illegal immigration. We look at the slave trafficking, the child trafficking. And of course, we just have the P. Diddy situation coming on now. Do you think that he did that alone? Okay. And again, I am not taking either party's side here. You think that these things happen without knowledge of people higher ups? Do you believe in the deep state? Do you believe that there is a cabal that is running this country? I actually happen to. And I believe that a lot of things that happen, and we go, oh, how could that happen? I believe that there is so much money in many of these things that the deep state, the cabal, is taking the money. And again, this does not apply to the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. I think it applies to all of them, because I think that the big money runs this country anyways, not who is the president at the time, but the big money. And I think if you go back, it used to be big tobacco. Now it's big oil and big pharma. To me, there's more to the story. And this is not the country that began in 1776. This has been now turned into a lot more. And I think that this election coming will change it, but I'll talk more about that in my commentary. And of course, I guess I asked the question, continued long unemployment suggests that we're in a recession right now, which is what I've said the entire time, that we are in a recession, in my opinion. At least if you make less than 150 grand a year, you're in a recession. Maybe if you make more, you're doing okay. And I think that when you look at the election coming up, and I mean, it's a big vote now. Okay. It does look like the Senate's going to flip, which would be good, because if President Trump doesn't win, I do not want to see an entire Democratic House, Senate, and president. I think there's too many concerns, and I do not like what has happened to the Democratic Party. And as I go back in history, I mean, listen, I voted Democratic before. I'm in the middle. So again, but I certainly have never been as strong against one candidate and for one right now, and that is I am for Donald Trump. I do believe that he did a great job last time. I don't care. You want to talk about hatred? There has never been more hatred in this country than there is right now. And again, you can call me an idiot. Hey, you won't be the first one. I get plenty of you people out there that call me idiots every day, including some of my friends. But again, I do believe what I believe, and it is my opinion that Kamala Harris will destroy this country because she's been in office for 3.5 years and hasn't done shit. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Up Horror. We're going to step out here for a break, and we'll be back with our market update right after the break. What up, kids? Well, again, remember, we've got some sponsors for the show, and they're brokerage partners. And just a reminder, I have many brokers, so it's not like I'm just only pushing one. You go wherever you want. I give you brokerage partners because I want you to have opportunities to look at others. Okay. One is Capital Trading Group, which is what our partners in many of our letter of direction products, and also a futures broker who does a great job. And again, I can't give them more credit. And of course, then there's TRADIER brokerage for equities and options, $10 a month flat, saves me over 100 grand a year in commissions. So I think they're a wonderful place. Check them out. They're on the sides. And of course, our high school program on the bottom. At the end of the day, as I said, all I'm saying to you is check it out. I am not telling you that you should or you should not go there. I am saying to you that I believe that you'll be happy if you check them out. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and, of course, our market report. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, October the 13th. And, of course, well, markets were up again. No surprise. We keep making new highs. I mean, there's no volume, there's no action, but we continue to make new highs. Listen, at the end of the day, there's not much I can tell you. Okay. You can't fight the tape, and the markets are going higher. I have a bet that I'm going to lose for the second year in a row, that the markets will be lower on the year. But again, I don't fight it when I'm trading. I may have an opinion long term, and I still stand by my opinion that we're going to have a major meltdown, but may not be tomorrow, may not be next week, may not be in the next 6 months. I can't tell you when it's going to be. In the meantime, as we look at the markets, we are flat, okay? And we have a little bit new format that we're using. So we're flat, everything but short the Dow, okay? And there's a greater probability that we'll be shorting the other indexes as well. just based on the data that we're using. But in the meantime, for today and for tomorrow, we will be short just the Dow. Okay. And the dollar, which we no longer trade, but the dollar is still charging higher. Again, we'd be long it, no big deal. But of course, we'd be looking at an area in the euro currency, okay, which we were short. We're going to reverse to long tonight or tomorrow. That's up to you. In the bonds and notes, which again, they've been getting hammered. We are going to be reversing those eventually to long, but right now we are flat. Okay. Bitcoin, we are short, which was higher last week. Gold was pretty moderate, but we are short gold, flat silver, flat copper. Okay. In the grain markets, we're short corn, flat wheat, flat beans. In cattle, I am still short cattle. It's still going up. I don't understand it. I am still long hogs. We don't trade anymore, but that's how we're playing them. Natural gas has come up quite a bit off from its recent high. We are flat, but certainly we would be probably looking for a spot to get long here at some point, but we would still be flat. Crude oil continues to explode to the upside, and we would be short. Again, this is extremely overbought conditions in a market that doesn't warrant it, but of course, that's one of the penalties you pay when you have to buy your oil from Saudi Arabia. And you've got a government that is trying to support the rest of the world, everybody but our own citizens, which, again, another problem. In the meantime, in the softs, which we don't trade, but in the softs, right now we would be flat, all the softs, with the exception of sugar and coffee, which we would be long both of those. Okay. So again, a little bit different format, but you get the general idea of where we would be. And in the meantime, we're going to step out here for our final break, and we'll be back with my commentary and, of course, my football picks. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Sunday, October the 13th. Well, kids, again, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel. Just remember, Trader Brokerage, Capital Trading Group, and, of course, our high school program, which are on the sides and the bottom. Check them out. I do have other brokers. So, again, it's all it is it's really in my due diligence to want to help you. Let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and, of course, my commentary. Welcome back. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, October the 13th. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've got, first of all, we've got so much brainwashing in this country. Okay, you've brainwashed people to hate one candidate. You've allowed the government to facilitate, okay, and actually break the law by pursuing legally a candidate before the election interference, which is there's not supposed to be any lawsuits 90 days before, but now we're already seeing Jack Smith, of course, which we talked about last week. Again, I would like to see that we could have a fair and square election. There are so many lies being told, and by both parties. Again, this is not a single party issue. This is an American issue. But I think it's time for you as an American, if you're an American that's watching this, to wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that Kamala does not have your best interests at heart. You may not like Donald Trump. You may hate him. Okay. But what we've seen for the last 4 years has been disastrous. And my friend who keeps sending me all that bullshit, left shit you read, okay, those numbers are inaccurate. Why don't you send me the revisions that come every month after those bullshit reports come out? Interest rates are higher than they were when the Fed cut rates. Mortgage rates are higher before. But you've got all this interference. Now, why are they so dead set on getting it? Because, of course, the cabal, the government as we know it, the deep state, they want control. Okay? You've got all kinds of celebrities talking on either side. And who the fuck said that the celebrities know what they're doing? Okay. Because they're fortunate, they can pick a side. And again, I don't care what side they pick. I'm not going to reckon names. One side picks one side, one's big picks one picks the other. I think it's got to stop. I think we need to go back to, first of all, the election spending needs to stop. The bullshit needs to stop. and we need to get into some real, true reality as to where we are. And that starts with our government, who's ever in power, to give us accurate facts and accurate information and actually follow the laws of the Constitution, which they do not anymore. And I think that that's the real problem, that they continue to hire into government, which the federal government was not meant to be the largest employer in the world. We have no money for FEMA. We have no money for anything but illegal immigrants, for criminals, for transgender surgeries. Is that the America that you want? It's up to you. It's your vote. That's all I can say about that. And let's talk about football, because I want to throw up talking about what's going on in this country right now. In the meantime, this week, we like the Tennessee Titans, believe it or not. That makes me almost as sick of what's going on in this country right now. We do like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we do like the Philadelphia Eagles. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you back here tomorrow with Bubba's Daily Update, and of course, next Sunday with Bubba's Bottom Line. And don't get brainwashed. Remember, go back and remember history. The Nazi Party, Jonestown, Democratic Party today, and the media. Adios. Have a great weekend, everybody.